afraid one of the tortoises, it's pretty deep actually, might fall in there.
So yeah, if you want to bring in fill or something to fill it in, or if you want to place some sort of like drainage tiles or something, that could be field permitted. That's something that I can permit.
Okay, great.
So if you work with
we're
somebody that, you know.
Yeah, we have a bunch of engineers and the board and all that. We were just discussing it. We hadn't come up with any solution.
So that can be field permitted. That's something that I can permit.
Okay.
There's no cost associated with it.
So Joe, she said that if we could figure out a different solution on the drainage there, as far as keeping the tortoises away but still giving them water or something, she now that she knows about it, we'd have to run it by her and she could permit that. Yes.
So I don't want to say anything about the palms just because I don't have an answer for you today.
That's
whether
fine.
they can be removed or what.
Yeah, we'll show. They're on the other end, so we'll talk about those later. It's not all of them.
Okay. No, and that's fine, and it's possible, but I just don't want to say yes or no.
Okay, so what we have is
This is interesting.
a ton of mother-in-law tongue.
Yeah.
And that's on the
Asparagus fern, that's what moves down. A little bit of vinca.
It's just so patchy. It's so interesting.
That's a nice way to put it.
Do we know what type of grass that is, or can it?
Probably Fakahatchee grass. It's hard to tell that low, but that is an ornamental grass that's commonly used by a landscaper on the shoreline that doesn't know that it looks like sea oats, you know. So
Right, but the blade is different.
yeah,
Thinner.
and it produces a ton of seed. You'd want to lose that over time because it produces a ton of seed and just continues to recontaminate.
Yeah, so basically this whole area would be replanted, or what's the...
Over time. This isn't a 1 year
Right,
project.
right,
So what
right.
we're actually looking for is a permit that's kind of like a generic management authorization.
Okay. So
kinda-
the way that I have to do it now, because there's been some abuse of permits around the state, is that you'll just have to indicate which area each phase is.
Okay.
So which area you'll be working on this year, and then just point out future projects, because the field permits only last for 1 year. They expire. Yeah. They've always had a 1 year expiration.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll permit out whichever area you choose for this year.
Yeah, we'll get to this. In fact, in a month or two, we'd like to work on this.
Yeah.
And so all the mother-in-law tongue we would want to take out.
Right. And if you have enough protection from the beach, you can work here during nesting season.
We can?
We can. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Come with me just for a second, please. I want to show you why. I don't know if everybody needs to wait through this. I'm not going.
No, I don't either.
Here's a good example of why I've always debated this whole arbitrary 24 or 36.
Oh yeah. No.
According to this, we would be tuning that thing over there. So what I always throw in is a statement that says, according to reasonable horticultural practice.
Right.
Now, when you take that out, then you open up more area that you're going to be able to put.
Better vegetation.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, for the turtles as well.
Right. Yeah, I don't have a problem with this all going lower, but then with the forward, then it's going to grow bigger.
Yeah, right.
It's just
basically-
the initial prune. Right.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Boy, this would be fun to torch.
So, if that's something that you want to pursue, I'm pretty sure that that's another Tallahassee permit that Sebastian had.
Oh, to burn it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they're not going in there and torching that without everybody being involved.
But I'm just, right. So if that is something that you're looking to pursue, okay, that's another thing, is if you want this whole thing under one permit, all the phases and everything, it can go through Tallahassee. This is a huge project.
Right, you do.
So I mean, not, to
No,
put it lightly, it's
It is.
it's a big project.
It's
so.
not your standard field
Right,
permit.
right. So I have no problem field permitting small phases, but if you want to go in and do the whole thing and just be able to work continuously without every year having to explain what you're doing that year,
Yeah.
it
It's a
can,
comp plan.
it can go through Tallahassee.
Right. Now, just so you're aware, what that means is, what's a $500 application fee, about 6 months worth of.
For vegetation projects, it's different. It's not as not that it's not as thorough. It's just a different process than like
standard.
building or a
Right.
pool or something like that.
So it'd be less than 500.
I actually take that off the table.
Oh,
It would depend on. It depends. I don't typically work with that side, so I don't know the exact matrix of that. If that's something you're interested in, I can give you the contact in Tallahassee, and they can give you more information about that
What
avenue.
might be required for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a couple of things going for you here. There's a clear history of doing voluntary, enthusiastic, private funded
Right.
stuff here.
Right.
It's not like you're a builder who's trying to get an extra 3 feet so he can put in, $2 million more worth of real estate.
Right.
so let me understand, but you could give us individual field permits for different areas?
Right. So because this is such a huge area, I just wouldn't be able to permit the whole thing under one management plan.
Okay.
You'd have to say, okay, we're going to work in this area and we're going to do these 7 things here this year, and then next year, whatever's reasonable to complete in that time frame.
Okay, now does
So-
that also apply to like the pruning? Because,
No, that could be a blanket,
okay,
but it's just for the removal and the replanting. So that way you're not exposing yourself during hurricane season or
right.
nesting season.
Can I ask you a question?
Mulberry, that's nice stuff. It's rare, pretty rare. If y'all are, have anybody, have you ever been up to the National Seashore and approached from the north end? And then just seeing how different it is than this? If you were there, you would still be in a thicket of saw palmettos with your head just over the top. That's the only place that I know in Florida where it's 26 miles long, and there's a 5-mile road that leads from the north end, and you got to get almost to the end of that 5 miles before you stop seeing the evidences of human activity. There's, the escaped plants and mother-in-law's tongue that nobody planted there, but it's there. So it's one of my favorite places to go because you can lose yourself like you were here when Jonathan Dixon came in.
The picnic here, is there something wrong with that?
It's invasive. I mean, it could be removed.
Really?
Okay. It was probably planted for.
Oh, yeah, that's planted
for-
ornamentally.
Yeah.
Now, if you really like it, you can, have your guy dig it up and plant it someplace else on the property.
Oh,
that's
Rob.
Rob, could you move so they can
Oh, I'm sorry. Spaced out here.
We thought they were good for the gopher tortoises.
No. Okay. I mean, they're not. There's not a dune plant.
Okay.
So, is there a policy like we have cactus and things that probably didn't come when they're, like we have some out here, some aloe.
So
Do you
I can't tell you to spend money to remove and replant. However, if you do remove, it does need to be replanted.
Oh, I see.
So that's the only thing that I can say is that
Yeah,
I can't tell you that you have to take something out. But if you do take out something and it exposes a large area of dune, it would just have to be replanted.
Right, and if you, when you replant it, you're planting. Now, what I was in that plan, I'm using the Canaveral National Seashore Floristic Inventory.
Okay.
Fritz has got some lists, and there's in the natural areas inventory has some lists, but to me that's the gold standard of what was really here.
Well, because it's regional. Makes sense.
Thank you.
So one of the things that we we're out working,
You don't fill them in.
yes, and we don't, we leave it, we stay away from it. We don't do anything near them. We leave it
And that's more FWC than me.
Okay.
And not that I mean I think it's great just as a personal plug, but it's just not something that the department deals with.
okay.
Turtles?
The gopher tortoises. It's FWC.
We thought we had your heart.
We thought you had you at hello.
Okay,
This is the most expansive Dune project that I've
It's huge,
seen.
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's great. You have a diverse Dune. I mean, there's invasives and there's room for improvement, but it's really great just how much you guys have here.
We know.
They're exhausted.
Yeah.
Well, we know we got a lot. Now, remind me that how much of this is within the purview of these buildings is within the purview of the project that you're talking about? Is it all of these? Or 3 of them?
That would be Elizabeth.
Well, so all 3 buildings, this is all our property, so.
These 3.
Yes. Yeah, the 3 beige.
It's actually from the walkway right there. It's within
Right,
the
that
5
walkway
feet of
is
that
public
walkway all the way to the 5th row over here. It's huge.
Okay.
I measured it out like 450 this way, 475 this way by 350 this way, and about 20 to or 30 or 40% pioneer zone translating into strand.
So, Jim is going to, Jim is our guy that has bought the sea oats.
Okay. And that's with Paula.
Hey, Jim.
Jen,
Talking sea oats.
You can see where we planted them. Some of them haven't even matured yet.
We got 500 more, but
Jen,
500 in 1 year they didn't.
she wants to talk to you. They're talking sea oats.
Have you all ever done any work on this particular plant here, this dead one that you see?
I hope it's
Elizabeth?
No, not salt water. What's the coldest that you've had here this year already?
It was below freezing.
You did have below
Yes,
freezing.
it did
Okay.
go below freezing.
I mean there's definitely some overwash here from the storm.
Yeah,
But not that,
and you
but
can
just-
find seeds of this stuff, another 50, 75 feet in. This is called coin vine. It's actually a native plant in Florida on the Dune. But in the past, ever since Francis and Jeannie and then Opal, let's see if I can find the seed. Anyhow, it has seeded itself.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, I would find one of those the size of a washing machine in an area like another one 200 yards away. And then right after Francis and Jeannie, we started seeing pieces of it like this that year after year just expanded. Everybody uses the word exponentially, but after 3 years of a new colony at one place, it took 2 20-yard dumpsters to fill and then get rid of it all. And if you actually take one of these leads and start following it, they don't root into the ground. It overshadows and kills off everything underneath it, and then you get a freeze, and it does that. And if you were, historically in this area, you go back 25 or 30 years, you get a hard freeze every 2 or 3 years, and that's what controlled this natural ecosystem. Freezes a little bit longer, harder freeze will take the sea grape down to the ground. So Canaveral never had any tree-formed sea grape because for years it was getting regularly frozen, and you don't see sea grapes growing naturally any farther to the north except where they've been installed by some landscape. So that's part of the reasons why, since we're not getting freezes, the only way to keep the sea grape from expanding and covering up and killing off everything is to physically control it.
Sure. Yeah. So even though it's a native, it's something that we can, as part of your phase, remove and then replant with something else.
Oh.
And you do have some seashore elder
Oh yeah,
trying to break through. So you have some diversity in here. It's just that's now taking over. So
That's all be pulled down.
this is, yes,
is that cocoa plant?
that's the native scabola. That's
Oh.
area. And then you have some of the other. There's a non-native scabola on the property I've seen several places. It's called Hawaiian sea grape, and it just grows and spreads. produces tons and seeds and kills everything.
I don't really know a lot of that.
So in February, we're going to come out and try and get a lot of the plastic that's still there from the overwash out and all that, or peel out to like pull out some of that stuff.
Yeah, if you're putting your sea oats back in that spot, that'd be fine.
You know what though? In my experience, all you got to do is get rid of that, and the sea oats underneath it will recover pretty quickly. I would.
It just depends on how much of it is actually rooted.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So again, however much exposed dune is happens as a result of removing that, that's how much you have to replant. If there's vegetation under it, you don't need to replant on top of existing vegetation. But if you remove that and it's killed everything underneath it, then you need to replant. So that's the rule of thumb.
And how about the beech elder?
This is good.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so can we propagate it across our? There's no problem with that.
It's pretty easy because it's a succulent.
Okay.
So they root just from leaves.
Okay. Great.
And then you have some railroad vine right there as well. Where that.
Oh, I see it now.
And it goes just.
Yeah, it runs, and that's really good because it's one plant will run like 50 feet.
So as far as sea turtles, is there anything we can do to make it better for them out here, or
We just can't touch anything. I would say east of where your crossover ends, or even where that woody vegetation is, after March 1st.
okay?
So that's the only thing. So everything you're gonna do here, do it now. Like start here and then
Start
move
on-
backwards. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can work in there after March 1.
Great. That's good
So,
to know because we
yeah.
always assumed the whole Dune we couldn't.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's no way a turtle's gonna make it there. You know, just logically, it's okay to work back there as long as you're not exposing new lighting. So if you have to, trim any of that saw palmetto down so low that it exposes new lighting, that would be an issue for FWC. But as far as working behind that, there's no issue. So,
Yeah, Cape Canaveral's pretty good about that. Sometimes they send a patrol to make sure that
yeah. The lighting surveys I think start in the middle of February. So.
Okay.
But yeah, this is saltgrass.
What kind of grass?
Saltgrass.
Salt grass.
Saltgrass.
Yeah, there.
Or
All
torpedo, is it?
5 of the
Pretty sure
cute
it's
grasses are here and here and there. Yeah, now you're talking about gathering this stuff up. That's just a lot of. You got to have a lot of volunteer effort to do that. I wouldn't. It's not going to bother anything in places where you don't have a really high-profile look. So I would, and in fact, it will compost down. In fact, years ago I did nutrient analysis and found out that exactly what is deficient in highly calcareous sandy beach soils is exactly the nutrients that are provided by sargassum sea.
Yeah.
So this is what we were talking about for propagation. And then that's the railroad line up and through.
Okay.
So this probably just got washed over from the storm, but
Yes.
it's starting to pop back up.
So Jim, where are we planting the sea oats?
That specifically determined, but I see the bald spots over here, and Rob's saying that would be a good area. Out of, away from the edge.
What is your recommendation?
For where to put the seeds?
Yes.
It's really going to depend on what you're planning on removing. If you're planning on removing, if that spot then needs to be replanted, because you have an abundance of plants right now, it would be beneficial to use that. I mean, or you can use them in the spots that are open and then wait to remove the existing. It's just going to be, how you're planning on spacing it out. That's something that Rob can do it.
And here's what I would say. Whenever I'm looking at it, trying to figure out what's the prevailing natural situation here, I feel like walk in and out until I got a straight line in either direction where the vegetation is thick and well established, not these little patches out here. So that's about, to me, north and south, it's about right here. They're not going to be pumping any sand anywhere close to this.
Oh, no.
No. So you don't have to worry about planting something that would obstruct them from doing their nourishment. They need that sand out there and moving south. So what I would probably do is take some, if not most of those plants that you have and just draw that dotted line here to here. And you know what we were talking about, that little auger? Right. Okay, you know.
We're talking
how
about
long has it been since
planting
we had
sea
it around?
oats.
I'm sorry? How long since you've
You're
had it
gonna
around?
put your post in row
Okay, look at this.
along that new vegetation.
You know, I noticed that Solana
1 inch below the surface, there's adequate moisture. At
You don't
noon.
need to water.
You don't need to water. Now, if you water them in initially one time, you're just going to use this
Instructions say, put water in the
put
hole.
water in the hole. That sets the roots. And also, if you get Osmocote,
The gel.
the gel, we debunked that. There was thousands and thousands of dollars of that stuff being used. It's really weird. They put it dry in the hole,
The contractor
and
and
it expands 100 times its volume. Come back 2 weeks later, the plant is all around by the stuff that's supposed to help. So all that's debunked. But Osmocote is a slow-release pelletized fertilizer that you can get at Home Depot, and you use 1 teaspoon of all of these. And then they're off and running.
What was that? No, it's just that I normally work in the house, so you come up here as well.
Oh, I'm from Miami.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Stone there. They used to call it suntan too.
Yeah, exactly.
And guess what? You want to hear something cool? Across the street from the University of Miami, there's a restaurant called Fox's Sharon Inn.
Okay.
My mom named it
After that?
Sharon's.
Yeah, I went there for my undergrad and then my loved it.
Yeah.
But now I can't live in
No. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. So I don't know who's in charge of the post and rope. I don't know who's taking that on.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth,
Post and rope.
well, he's in charge of the sea oats
Okay.
planting,
But then the
but
post
you
and
two
rope-
should be.
So just so you know, the post and rope, the posts have to be 7 feet apart, and the rope has to hang at least 3 feet from the ground at all times. So if the sand elevates, you just have to make the rope tighter so that there's more space. So a turtle can get through it. Is the
But you don't have to post a rope.
you don't no
Oh,
no.
you don't?
That's no, you
I just don't
absolutely
see
don't.
you need to. I think it's.
Because I saw Solana do it.
I know, but
But
no one
you-
walked it on it.
No.
You really don't need to. And I feel like here you have these little frontal hammocks that are really going to deter because they're going to grow back. They just got overwashed in
They
the
were
storm.
huge
Right,
You
they're-
never
last
had
year.
those
And-
before.
no,
Yeah,
and
they
they
came about 2
definitely-
years ago.
They'll definitely grow back. They're just a little bit under the sand right now. So I think that will be enough of a deterrent. People aren't. They don't want to.
They don't, unless
So,
they got to
I
take a
don't like
leak
those
in
patches.
privacy.
No, it's more along our sidewalk. You know,
Okay.
kids coming out of the
Yeah.
condominium.
It's just if you wanted them here, that would be.
That would be the
Yeah,
regulation.
yeah.
Okay.
But when you show me where you want to put them, then we can look at that. It might not need that.
Okay,
You
yeah,
might not
'cause
need that
it
right now.
was just a thought.
That's
So
if
if
you
you show
put it
her,
on,
she'll tell you.
that's what we
Okay, yeah. It was just a thought if we ever want to do it in the future.
Put that money towards planting and towards the other things that are more valuable.
And if we do proper planting, so it's almost like a barrier with plants.
Right.
Then we wouldn't have to.
I agree. I don't think it's necessary here. I think for an expansive dune, it would be redundant. Not to say that I wouldn't permit it if you requested it, but I just don't think that's a good use of your resources.
Yeah. We just wanted to run it by you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is all our property.
So if you wanted to run post and rope along this, you could also. You could, if you wanted to. You don't need to, but
And we would, it would send that to you and say, this is where we want to do it. Send you a picture.
and it would just have to be done before March 1st.
Okay.
Or or after November 1st.
Can I ask you a question? I'm like new to this whole thing. So all this plastic and everything that came out here, is there any kind of FEMA money still for like cleanup of all that from the storm?
It's a good question.
No. The money is going towards rebuilding houses, rebuilding roofs.
That was a good question.
Yeah, but it's not for, because this will bounce back. It'll get, unfortunately, it'll get washed over. It'll be, you can remove it, hand remove it, but there's not funding for that specifically.
Okay.
Sometimes as far as
Good question.
This is the sand we always used to have on the beach. It's like powder.
Like in here, the water came all the way up here.
Yeah.
And we think that before March 1st, we'd like to get in there and try and pull some of that out.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to get that plastic out. You know,
Right.
we tried sifting it. In fact, this side of the committees that were out here tried sifting it and throwing, just the rack back in.
I know, it's
But
really
it's-
unfortunate, but
Yeah.
it's just a hand process, unfortunately. There's
Which-
not really.
What is your recommendation for the most efficient cleanup of this? Is it sifting or is it just
Raking.
dump it?
I mean, I think you could rake the top of this because this is all just
Yeah.
debris. This isn't vegetation.
Dead.
This is all dead. So if you were to just rake all this up, it's going to
Yeah.
pick up. See how it's just
You're
doing
gonna have
that?
sand.
You already picked up
Okay.
that much.
So we don't have
So-
to sift? What were you sifting for?
We had two teams going that walk and this walk. This walk picked it all up and shook it, and so the plastic would fall out at the bottom, and then they tried to throw the clean stuff in there. But we still have so much.
Yeah, I don't even think that's necessary.
Okay.
This is dead. This isn't providing
So
anything.
just shovel it up
So I
and
think just-
get rid of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Just keep as much sand as you can.
Okay.
Try not to remove the fill or the dune sand, but
Okay.
hopefully that'll get a lot of it. If not, it's not going to get all of it. There's just no way to get all of it, unfortunately.
And
But
also-
that's great advice. Thank you.
Okay. He also just suggested putting sand on top of it, so it's like a compost.
Yeah, it's just that then you're leaving the plastic in the beach.
Oh, the plastic.
If there is another storm, then that's going to get overwashed and drawn right back out to the ocean. So right now it's a great opportunity to remove
it
it
out.
if possible. But
We got a lot out already.
it's just hard. Yeah. Exactly.
I know. It used the whole beach used to be like this. Sad.
BC grapes here. What about? And also, is our little decorative walkway okay?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's. I wouldn't permit it, but I'm not going to tell you to remove it. It's just.
Came from the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about BC grapes? So, Rob,
Yep.
what about these sea grapes out here?
Same thing. A single uniform way of doing it works the best. And again, what you're trying to do is replicate a natural process which keeps this from spreading and becoming a dominant plant.
Like it is.
Yeah, I mean,
The
again,
only problem with doing it this late in the season is that the lighting surveys are going to be happening. So if you bring
Yeah.
this low, it might cause problems for the lighting from the buildings.
except that you already have engaged Fish and Wildlife about lighting surveys, right?
Yeah,
So if there, someplace right in here, there's nothing that you can do to this that's going to change the amount of light that reaches the beach from that building because it's below a physical
Right, this,
constructive
but
line of sight.
I was just saying, as a just to be careful as you start to trim this as a whole, that you're not exposing new light.
Gotcha.
It's just
That's right. And in fact, you need to engage FWC. Have them come out and say, this is what we're planning on doing. We've got a DEP permit to do this. And the DEP, they can't issue a permit to you if there is a likelihood that there will be an increased lighting.
Right.
So she's going to condition your permit that you take care of that. And this is one of the cool things is that hundreds of thousands of dollars get spent on fixing the lighting because people want to do this. So it's all the whole, you're managing the whole system instead of just this species or that species or that species.
Right. Right.
Well, we
But-
know this is, everything that we're thinking about is, it would be a multi-year project. So,
Right, absolutely.
So would we have to ask again for, like, if we didn't get to this year?
So that's why it might be worth it to explore an administrative permit. I'm gonna talk to them when I leave here to see what that cost would be and what that would look like. But because that would be able to issue you a permit for 5 years,
Okay.
whereas I can only issue it for a year at a time.
So if we
So-
wanted to do this portion this year, you could issue that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I think that's what we're after for now.
Yeah.
This is a coin vine seed.
Would you like a
That's
water?
that thing that's dead over there. We had, those storms that caused this stuff. There was storms that came onshore and then offshore. So what they basically did is picked up the seeds from these things scattered all over the place, blew them offshore into the water column. They went north and south, and then it brought them back in. So now we'd start to see this stuff just popping up everywhere.
You able to take those?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. My launch and out for the fish.
They're so different. Yeah. I mean, it's good because it provides different kinds of protection.
Right.
So,
We just need to get in and finish cleaning out.
right. Well, because that way, if you have a freeze, like you saw that coin vine died, different things. It's good to have diversity in case something happens to a singular plant. That's all.
Was there questions up here, Elizabeth? Or Rob?
No. So this is so we've been working down in this area in the front. We'll see it when we go down there. Just getting up some of the dead leaves, the dead brush. What we found out was the dune started looking awful all of a sudden. We found out it was the coral bean was growing into the trees. The grass was growing up the coral bean. Suddenly we had
Remind me what you're calling coral bean.
See it, the tortoise?
Talking about baby.
there's some
Just cross the path.
Oh, now I see it. Yeah. Awesome. Over there to the right of the path. There it is.
Yep.
About halfway out.
Yeah, you can't see the bush, but yeah, it grows on the vine.
So you've got coral bean, you've got forest area, you got Bromeliad tenax, which is unusual, but
What's that?
it's tough buckthorn.
Oh,
And wild coffee, myrcene. This is it's a pretty good handful of what you would love. The smilax here, this cat riot. I wanted to put that in a project, and no way in the world any nurseryman would ever grow that stuff. But it turns out to be really easy to propagate, And so we're able to, add some of those things back in. And there's a second species of the same stuff over there.
So, which are the palms that you wanted to?
we were going.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
Would you like a water? Okay. Elizabeth, he's showing us gopher apple. Maybe you already know.
That's gopher apple. That puts out a seed about as long as your two joints of your little finger, and they call it gopher apple because it's one of
Is that invasive or?
No. It's something that you would add into, like back in the back here, when you remove exotics, you don't want to be putting sea oats in here because they're a frontal dune plant. So some of these
Coral bean.
Yeah.
ground
See how it
covers.
grows into the other.
Unfortunately,
plant.
there's a
found
native nursery.
Like right here.
Grows some of this weird stuff.
So this is what our bushes were starting to look all crazy and grass growing out the top, and we found out that if we separate the coral bean, which is beautiful, flowers, if we separate it from the other trees, we don't have such a mess, and we can let them grow independently. But we've had to, just make sure that they're not touching each other is what we're trying to do right now. And, just get...
No, you guys sound like you have a good handle on this. It's just, just a little bit of extra knowledge never hurts.
Exactly. That's
Do
why
you want to go this way and then go back that way on our way out?
Okay.
So we'll go left first.
Okay.
Marked out the inlets, they get dropped on the inside of the coast.
coolers are over here. We'll walk back out that gate. Where's our first vine? Where'd he go?
So I want to run you in here real quick. So what we're talking about is we just break up the leaves, you know,
Yeah.
in nature as it is. Hello, little bird. Bringing up some of the leaves because what we found is after we got all the leaves up, nothing is growing down here. You know,
Right.
it's just completely,
Exposed, yeah.
you know, this was completely covered in leaves. And, yeah, so we're trying to work with Rob to figure out, well, what could we grow here
Yeah.
that would be good now that we've got sunshine coming back into
Right,
it.
right.
Because we don't think that just leaving it bare is a good thing, is it?
Right.
No, but we had to get rid of.
Well, you don't want to
Because
leave
they
it
were
bare because
moldy.
invasives are gonna come and fill in these pockets.
Oh, that's true.
And then that will then take over your good stuff. So you don't want to leave just big
I
open
see.
patches.
Okay. So yeah, that's why we're not trying to, we're trying to make nature better.
No. And removing the debris is not is a good thing. It's not a
Oh,
bad
okay.
thing. It's not. That's. I'm not saying that. But you put them now. It's exposed,
Right.
and there's perfectly good sunlight. This should be something.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
Okay.
So you
Something
agree.
good.
right.
We can go out that way. Or you want to go back this way?
There's lots of different ways.
Yeah.
We'll go this way.
Yeah, and only certain people can work back here because I've been out here many years. Looking, you know.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of mold
These
under.
areas over in here, this is just optimal for like gopher apple and tortoise fork.
Good. Yeah, she just told us that that all those bare areas to get something in before the invasives take over.
Yeah.
Did you say that's just optical?
Optimal.
Optimal, great.
Yeah.
Just
the best.
making sure. I like optimal better.
What is this?
Hey. Oh, that's a railroad car.
That's a railroad?
Yeah, that's why he's showing that those are good on the beach.
Yeah, they're good on the beach. They have their pros and cons though. This stuff grows, they call it a railroad vine because today here's the end of it, the next day it's 18 inches.
Do they approach the water lines?
Grow really
Do
fast.
they sink into the water lines
They-
in the building?
There's the root.
I don't
They're
think,
very
I don't think you have to worry
surface.
about this. Yeah,
No,
they're
it
very-
goes way
that's
back
what I was
there.
gonna say, they're very on the surface. Now when they're out on the open beach with blowing sand, they'll capture sand really quickly and so they help
It
the
goes
dune
way
grow.
back there.
Oh.
But then they also completely take a powder when you start to get salt spray. So I've had situations where we had to control this stuff because we installed sea oats and grasses, and then this started overshadowing, dropping the soil temperature under the sea
So
oats.
can
and
it be
inhibiting
cut
that.
away?
But it's not a bad plant.
No, no,
Like,
no.
It's a good plant.
You can
Oh
get
yeah,
back those.
absolutely.
right.
It's going up the tree.
You know, like there's pros and cons with everything. But
That's
it's,
right.
It's not that it's a.
Not in our yard,
Right.
but it's great on the dune.
Yeah, you'll see it put in parking lots and medians and stuff, and it's good for about 6 months, and then it looks crappy, and then they replant it, and it takes them about 3 cycles before they realize there's a reason it's a beach plant and not a parking lot plant.
But it has pretty purple flowers. Like it's.
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
So it's.
It's like a morning glory.
Ju-
Yeah.
I love the natural.
Down south of my area, there is a listing of 196 native plant species that occur in the dunes of South Florida. So each one of them can have a little bit of
Oh, these
different
flag
growth.
ones?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to say yes or no today, but
Sure.
I will get you an answer.
Okay.
I'll just take a picture of them.
Okay.
They're all red flagged. Should I pull that red flag out?
They were installed a few years back in there.
Okay. I will bring this to the people in charge. Okay. Okay, what is this?
All right. So this is the fig.
This is a
Okay. So these two blue flag ones, I have to take you back here really to see this. We have an invasive fig. Yeah.
It's in trees.
Yeah. So for the fig there. permitted by FDEC to be taken down. It wasn't done right.
Yeah.
Still here. So I had a tree service come last week to say, tell us about this and what can be done. So he said it's the involvement of 2 of these cabbage palms that's already in their roots. He said he doesn't think it's in the roots of this guy. So he said the only way to get rid of this is to take both those down, take it down. He said you have to grind it very deep, and he has a special machine that will grind it deep. The big root that's out there, he said that also has to be ground, or it'll keep growing and it'll get on something else. That one that it's going out already like 20 feet.
This is Brazilian pepper.
And
here.
yeah, that's the other thing is we know there's a big Brazilian pepper down in there also, because this thing has been poisoned a million times and it's still here. They cut it, they poison it. And
This is far enough back that, and because it's not a stable, it's a cabbage, I think it could just be removed, the whole thing. I'm gonna check,
Okay.
but I think because there's so many invasives intertwined in it and because it's not really impacting your coastal protection,
Okay.
that there's a good argument for this whole section to just be removed.
Okay.
Would it be all 3 trees or just one?
Well, these 2 are connected.
Okay.
He said once he gets it down, he'll see where the roots go. He said you can't tell where the roots have gone until you get it down. But you can tell they've already gone to this one. He said we'll have to look at this one. Right now he doesn't think so, but if the roots goes under there, then that's the only way to get rid of it, or else it can come back up.
Yeah. Remember also that the long-term goal is to get palmettos established, like these guys right here, established in a zigzag line right in here, so that becomes an obstruction to people walking out in here.
So then this, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it, but I'm just gonna bring it to the higher ups before I say yes.
Makes sense. And tell them we have like 350
Right.
cabbage palms on our property.
Right. Just watch out for this.
Yeah, it doesn't include inside all the cabbage.
450
Watch it,
interior.
don't back up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Those will bite. And when they bite, sometimes they get infected.
All right. So yeah,
All right,
and
so-
because there's so much other
Right.
stuff
That
involved.
was a
And they have tried.
Right. And normally it would be try to salvage it, but
digged in now.
it doesn't look salvageable to me. And there's no point in having a plant that's ultimately going to die, stay in the ground. So
Okay, perfect. And we'll go back to the middle section and then we're done. Okay, thank you, Dave. Let's see if my turtle is
To help me out here, why are these flags here and not any of those right there or over?
want to make it better.
Ed, which are the ones they dumped in front of you? Because these are the ones they dumped in front of us.
Not better for the environment.
Is there a meaning between the red and the blue?
Yes, the blue is the take out the
Right.
fig. These were put here.
Right.
put
So
them
this
there?
is I'm gonna.
Oh,
I'm gonna
there's somebody
inquire about
planted in there. But weren't all these palms had been planted originally?
Not all of them.
No.
That's all I know.
And it's possible that they'll allow it, but I just want to.
Well, it was just.
No, it's better to
just
check.
that word.
Right.
It is
Yeah.
better to check.
Just the versus.
Right, because I would hate to tell you something today and then you
Exactly.
come back.
No, no, no.
Contract, it goes away, and you're like, oh, by the way, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
No. Yeah.
When were these planted at? Were they also improperly dumped there?
So
I know
what,
that was.
what
That
happened
was-
was we had a property manager that
You can tell that they're shorter
Uh huh.
than the originals. And they are different too.
Keep
Okay.
in mind, you got 20-some years. Keep something growing.
Sounds like the property manager did something.
Oh, he did.
a property manager got some for free and said, let me put them back here till we can find a place in
Oh.
the landscaped area to put them. Well, then he got fired.
Oh.
Then the new property manager either didn't do it, was overwhelmed,
Well,
or
so
something.
it is possible to replant them. I just think that they're too big now to move. I mean, if you find somebody that can, As long as they're east of the CCCL, you can replant them somewhere else.
Okay.
All the way over there.
So
And that would be agreeable?
that would be fine. I wouldn't have to check. That's allowed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Told you we didn't put them over there.
This is good for you to hear. You're the presidente.
So let's, yeah.
I'm bringing him up.
Good.
What's she saying?
Can you explain
Say
that
that
to-
again.
That as long as the trees are moved and they stay either within the dune system or reasonably so, that they can be moved. I don't need to check about that.
I mean, the root ball.
Yeah, it's a shallow ball. And just
I know.
Back
But I'm
home.
just
Right.
saying, what if we took them down and replanted?
yeah, that's what she said.
That's what she said.
Replant
like
that
I'm-
tree.
no.
She said replant a new tree.
Oh,
A tree, which is what I did on the interior. I took down 150 trees,
Right.
but I
that
replanted.
changes. I mean, that
That's
changes.
different.
Oh, it's not transplanting.
No,
Oh,
No, you
But
can,
you,
she
yes.
said we can
Move them.
transplant.
you
can-
can, but that's extremely
yes.
expensive.
Yes.
It's easier to
Yeah.
cut it
That's
down
not her issue.
and plant
Right,
another
that's not
tree.
her.
okay.
That's an internal issue.
Thank
Yeah, but
you.
we'd still like to approach. I mean, down the road, once you get the nuts and bolts out here done, you could do on the flanks and at interest points along here, you could do some really nice, sophisticated forest zone pockets. But that's bigger and later. And right now, my main focus on this would be to continue to say, hey, look, they planted them out here
Right.
unintentionally. We're going to replace them with something better, the palmetto. So let's
Right.
target that.
That's what I'm gonna try to
Gotcha.
accomplish.
That
but
would be
I just
wonderful.
can't give the green light on it today.
All right.
Okay.
Um,
So we'd like to take you back in here real quick where we've been working and just so that you see the depth of how many plants we have.
I mean, I'm just trying to imagine how many days it would have taken my guys to do this.
Yeah. Well, the soft palmettos we like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so could
good.
we use our own and just transplant them and not have to buy new ones?
Don't get all excited about that.
Oh, okay.
That's really, really hard to do.
This is where it's starting and then it's growing that way. So it's not always as straightforward as just the plant.
When we're doing unirrigated palmetto installations, we grow them in a specific container that's 6 by 6 by 18 inches deep. It's a tall, narrow container so that the whole root ball goes down below that. Remember that zone of constant moisture we saw on the beach? Same thing back here, and maybe a little bit shallower or a little bit deeper, but that's the only way. You know, people ask, can we transplant sea oaks? Well, you can, but
It's not worth it.
not worth it. That's it.
Okay, if you come this way.
Ever see this?
No. Inkberry?
That's Camellia tenax, tough buckthorn.
Okay.
That's it.
It kind of looks like because the inkberry grows up like that.
Yep.
So just, you know, when you do know stuff like that, just so you know, yeah, of all kinds of stuff. And that's
Coffee?
yes.
This coffee?
Psychotria nervosa.
So actually, Rob, what is this?
Oh, is this inkberry?
It's growing everywhere.
That's nice knot.
Kind of looks like it.
And there's more coral bean.
I don't know.
I want to say that's sweet bay.
Sweet what?
Sweet bay.
Sweet Bay.
I can't remember the botanical on it, but that's what it looks like. But it and myrcene look a lot alike, especially when you got a spring flush like this.
When you say
I
spring
do
bay,
But it's
it's
native.
native. It's native
Yeah.
for sure. I just don't know.
Sweet.
So these are
I
the
know,
trails that
but
they
you know how you have
from
bay
the
leaves?
palm
You put bay
trees.
leaves?
So
Is
we
it-
would keep them open
I don't know.
to see the-
I'll
yeah,
give
so we would just clean up just the messy part. But I have a question. So I had a tree company come out and, you know, just to see when we were trying to get control, trying to figure out what to do. One of the things he said is, you know, your lawn guys are trimming it straight across it. Everything's at 6 feet high. So I was wondering, like in here, and I mean, it won't be this year, but like, and he said, so some has to be at 6, some has to be at 4, some has to be at 3 or whatever. He said that's how the plants will be healthiest. is what he suggested. He said everything can't be at 6, but like in here, and we're not going to get to here for a long time, but is this an area like that?
Yeah, so this would be a phase. This would be part of the phase process that we're talking about.
Okay.
So it can only be 6 feet without a permit.
Okay.
And that's because it's unmonitored. That's just what the state goes by as our guidelines, because not everybody takes it as seriously or cares about it as much as you guys do. So they want it to be at 1 foot so that they have a good view out of their home, and they don't care that it's not growing well or whatever, because they just want the view. But for this case, where we're cutting it for a purpose for management practice, that 6 foot is a guideline that we don't have to follow here.
Right. You're asking for a permit to do something beneficial.
Right.
And the 6 foot is a regulatory threshold.
Because we have to have some sort of guidelines for the people that just want to cut down the dune so that they can drive their golf cart from their backyard into the ocean or whatever they want to do. You know, I've seen crazier things.
Oh yeah.
All right, what did you want to ask him about
I
this?
said, I said, you know how you have bay leaves that you put in soups and stuff?
Yeah, I'm
Sweet
pretty sure
bay?
this is sweet bay.
Is that edible?
I'm not going to tell you. Well, anything is edible once.
Well, make sure it's not poisonous if you put in your soup.
I'm gonna ID it. I don't see this really commonly because most of my work is in the Strand Zone and the Pioneer Zone, and this is a transitional to forest. But it's these are part of the native mix.
Right.
And I just want to look it up before I have you put that in your chicken.
Thank
soup.
you.
Thank you. That's what I was asking. I'm like, ooh, fresh bay.
So this is
About it. We've
Yeah.
been out here for like almost an hour.
an
Watch
hour
this.
later.
Yep. Right.
We let you out of the book.
Oh,
Wow, it's so much warmer in there.
Exactly. Well, that's what the tree guy said. He said they have to have air circulating as well as sunshine, and he said it's complete wall in a lot of these areas,
Yeah.
and they need more air.
I think he's blowing air. I don't think that's accurate at all.
Well, maybe the landscapers need air so that they, they don't melt. But
Yeah.
All right.
Also, remember that most of the lawn guys, this is kind of an intimidating thing for them. There's a lot of them that just don't even want to touch it because they haven't learned the rules, the regulations, and they get in trouble, and then the owner is mad at them.
fine.
But, again, since I'm retiring and I can't do all this stuff, I'm hoping to continue to teach people. I got Yellowstone down south that's got 6 projects, and they're getting to the point where they only call me if they don't know something.
So we have a volunteer that was that Linda, where's she? Here, Linda had learned how to grow the prickly pears when the prickly pear paws or whatever they are when they fell off, so that we can try and just propagate it for the tortoises. And we're going to learn other plants that way if we can do it, so that we can use some of our native stuff.
I mean, it's not a native, but it's in the dune already, so it's kind of.
But there are 2 other natives that you can install.
Yeah.
That are native opuntias.
Oh, okay.
One of them pretty rare, and you just stick it in here. It's just one more cool thing that you're doing.
But Linda learned how to do it on her own, and we have so many volunteers like that are willing to help us care for it.
What are the 2 native we should consider?
Opuntia stricta. Opuntia stricta and Opuntia humifosa.
Thank you.
And you might be able to get them at Maple Street Native in Melbourne if and when they are open. They're a native plant nursery with a lot of coastal
is
stock.
it hurting if we plant those?
That's a subjective call. Depends upon whether you're a purist and you want your dune to be absolute dune, or whether you want, my motto is kind of
A little bit more detailed than
but not obsessively native. If it's not, I wouldn't plant anything out there that produces a lot of seed and is going to escape and contaminate other areas.
What he had printed out like that, but then circle the areas that you're actually going to tackle this year.
Okay.
And whether that's budgeting or manpower,
Yeah.
however you determine that that's your phase of this year, and then what you're going to be doing in if it's the frontal dune, what you're going to be doing there, what you're going to be doing in the woody vegetation. Just pick what you're going to do and then send me that. Yeah.
Okay, so what you need is a generic. We want to be able to prune everything. We want to be able to get rid of all the exotics so long as we replant.
Right.
That is an overall.
But I need it to be a little bit more specific than what you had given.
Oh yeah, that's just
Yeah.
a.
Right. And that's what I was just saying, is that I need it to be a little bit more, because obviously this whole thing is not being tackled today. So where you're, and yes, we could do a blanket trim and that could be fine, but what you're really planning on tackling this year as the projects, rather than, in addition to just the trim.
Here's something you need to think about. With your volunteers, with all of the hours that you're capable and enthusiastic about putting in, exotic removal, getting rid of it's not a budget item. You're not going to have to go to the board and say, hey, we need to have $10,000 to do this. Now, you do need to do it in a way that you're not exposing any really big areas unless you're plan. But I would put in the exotic removal generally as if you're okay with this, I'd put it in as a neutral broad spectrum. I'd put in the pruning as neutral broad spectrum. And then this year we're going to tackle
The mother-in-law pond
Yes.
over here. That's a
So my only problem with saying that we're removing exotics is that I need to know what's going in, because I know you guys have the coats, but we can't be putting coats
Right.
here. So I just need you to call out
So
the
we would say,
areas
like,
of exotic
gopher apple
removal,
and
right?
aster flower.
Right,
and
right,
that
right.
Sort of thing.
Of what you're going to plant in each section of exotic removal.
So if you had a map,
Right. Right.
Okay, now do you need an architect's drawing, which is very sophisticated and requires a whole,
I need just an aerial that just calls out, okay, we're going to be removing this exotic area, and in this area we will be replanting
This.
these plants.
Have you seen my Miami management plan or my Delray Beach management plan? It's 7 pages. I got a copy in there for you to look at, because it basically was used to give the whole 9 miles of Miami. It says, more or less generic. Anytime you open up an area this much,
Yeah.
then you plant it with
That's
this
what I
mix of
need.
species.
Yeah. That's
So
what I
that's
need.
that second thing that I was talking about. Look at this.
now
That
what
is-
what
No.
part, which permit it never expires? Which permit never expires?
All permits expire.
Oh, really?
Tallahassee has a 5-year one if we go that route.
Right, and mine's 1 year.
But we can't do the whole thing anyway, so we can get field permits from her just
Right.
for the part
Yeah.
that we're working on.
Right.
I
No,
mean,
no.
that's our speed.
Yeah.
And what's the average cost of a permit in the 5 year?
That I would have to check, because I know the cost for structural, but this is just
Yeah, this is
vegetation,
different.
so it's just a different thing.
Lost my thought. Hercules Club, really, really rare. You see those spines? That's
More
it right
spines?
there.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, when that thing gets to be a tree, it'll have branches about as big around as your forearm that may go up 10 or 20 feet, and they got thorns on them like this long. So that's why Hercules Club, the Greek guy.
Wow, I haven't seen that.
I love finding this stuff.
It's-
This is another plant that
It's
clearly
native.
indicates this was not planted here. Nobody would ever grow that commercially. So this mostly is just.
So we would
Remnant.
get rid of that?
No, it's good. It's native. Well,
More thorns.
Well, you just want to make sure you don't walk into it at night when
Right.
you're out here.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be one.
It will bite you as well.
All right, we need to get Hailey on the road.
Rob, thank you for coming and
This is
giving
one of the
us some
longest
help.
site inspections. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
You have the biggest area, so.
And it was unmanaged.
Are there any other
Want water or
properties
help?
doing this? Are there any other properties around here doing this kind of thing?
Yeah, I have properties and all over doing this, but this is just a very large project. That's the difference between this and a different one. Is that it's
Up here in
very.
Cape Canaveral to start this area.
I don't know if I have any open permits at the moment, but I did last year. It's just that this is so wide this way as well as this way.
Yeah, this is.
Just the-
I don't want to say unique, but
Yeah.
pretty near.
It's a good thing, though,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
no, it's great. It's just it's a great thing to have to tackle.
You don't have to worry about a category 3 or 4 taking out your swimming pool.
Right. Whereas other people, the category 1 took out their house.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. I wonder if it's over here.
May I have your business card, please? I saw you were carrying them. Thank you so much. Do you have one, Elizabeth?
No, I don't.
So she brought a bunch.
Thank you.
looks
Oh,
like.
good.
I'll take one more, please. Thank you so much.
But she doesn't know where. Here, no, come here. Just put it in the park. Okay. This is trash.
She brought like 10 business cards, so I asked her for. All right, I think I